Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Carolyn Strauss. I'm the director of Slow Research Lab, and I really want to thank you. It's a pleasure to be part of an event at CCA, even if only virtually. CCA is one of my all-time favorite institutions in the world for several decades, actually. And in 2009, at the invitation of Giovanni Borassi, I had the opportunity to co-lead a workshop, a summer week-long workshop for Montreal teens with a really wonderful and generous équipe. Olivier, Jean-Maxime, Enclair, many others. If any of you are watching, though, I just want to say an extra warm hello and thank you again for that experience. And what a pleasure to be joining Guy and Pascal exploring the work of our publisher, Valiz, which is an institution in and of itself, in a different sense of the word. It's a space for creativity and for knowledge production in the Netherlands that is not only iconic but feels essential to the Dutch cultural landscape and what it offers. And also it's an entity in the world of publishing that's hard to imagine any of us living without, and certainly that must be true of a museum bookshop like CCA, where so many of us go to be nurtured by content like that Valiz has to offer. So just briefly about the relationship with Valiz. Like CCA did all those years ago, Valiz has really welcomed me and welcomed Slow Research Lab into its fold in a very generous and nurturing and also a very dynamic kind of a way. They provide unwavering support through the process of making a book, but also a great deal of autonomy for an editor like me who is curating and assembling the book's contents, working individually and sometimes very intensively with its contributors, and also in exploring how the design can actually support the overall themes of a given volume and sort of what my goals are as its editor. And then Valiz is very supportive in proposing and finding and contracting the designers that are going to help to fulfill that vision. There are so many other facets of it, but I just want to say that these kinds of things are a testament to Valiz's trust in the making of a book, trust in the making of a book as a creative process also, and that a book is a container for growing knowledge. My knowledge, that of the contributors themselves, of the designers, and of course of the readers and of people like you that are there today. So this again is the book. I have one here as well, the book that I'm here to talk with you about primarily this evening, Slow Technology Reader, a tool for shaping divergent futures. I'm so excited that it's launching today at the CCA and soon will be out in the world everywhere. But first I want to introduce the first two book collaborations I have with Valiz because they provide special insight not only into Slow Research Lab's work but also the approach to crafting a book and with regard to those special qualities of working with Valiz that I just mentioned. This was our first book, The Slow Reader, a resource for design thinking and practice. I co-edited with Anna Palapaish, who also was the designer of the beautiful design of the book. It was published in 2016, and this book, like the others, and I'm talking about this in particular because it relates also to the Slow Technology Reader. It was aimed to encourage what I call slow reading, this idea of an expanded experience of engaging information, of going beyond the immediate text even to arrive at new levels of awareness and understanding. And one of the ways that I sought to do that, and we sought also in exploring the design of this and other books, was to think through how a book could operate maybe as a kind of a slowing device, what qualities of form, of materiality, of typography, and information design could induce a reader to engage a book in a slower way. Because slow knowledge is not linear, it's emergent, it's intuitive, it's sometimes fractal or at the margins, emerging at the borders of the mind, entangled both across space and across sometimes long stretches of time. So what tools could be offered through a book like this, through these kind of the topics it introduces, like the ones you see here in the upper left, the tools of slow practice that we introduce in this wide margin space. You see these kind of words that are linking from one contribution to another, providing page numbers so that the reader can actually not only explore the contents at hand, but be encouraged to go and look at the way another contributor in another disciplinary field might approach or be thinking through intimacy, be thinking through the recalibration of our values that's possible through slow thinking and practice. And for each of the books, what was important to me was that the index of words at the back of the book could also be an entrance into the book, that you could read these. This is just one page spread, but that you could read through these words, and through these words not only enter specific topics you might be interested in, which is what an index is good for, but also to begin to understand the fullness of the book as a whole through this. So the second book was this one, The Slow Spatial Reader, and we embarked upon it in 2019, and the bulk of it was done during the first year of the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, which of course was a time of loss, of confusion, and at the same time it was a period of reflecting on giving humanity a chance to kind of reconsider its values, and not least the pace at which it operates. So what might that look and feel like? And that was very appropriate to also how a lot of the writers, contributors ultimately entered the books. These just some of the few contributions, and again the ways you see that both through these kind of clouds of words that appear to frame the sections that are on the left side of the screen on these 5 section headings, but also the design itself support the ways we think about spatial thinking practice. This book included contributions by architects, of course, which I know would be interesting maybe to a crowd that's here, but also other spatial practitioners like dancers, choreographers, artists working in sculpture and installation and sound. And again here we see the index. Just see where your eyes may be alight among all these words, and take that as a kind of a key to where you might go with this book if you were to pick it up yourself. So now we get to the pièce de résistance, or as they say, or at least the book that we're discussing tonight, which is The Slow Technology Reader, a tool for shaping divergent futures. And the title says it all, like what slow futures are possible for technology, not just the digital technologies that we think of when we use the word technology these days, but how can we think technology through the lens of ancient tools that have endured the test of time, through indigenous cosmologies and techniques like the spiritual technologies and the social technologies of Candomblé in Brazil. We're going to get to that in a second. You're going to see that. How do we think through the relationships like this one of the minerals that are embedded in our devices and the extraction of those minerals and the so-called cloud and the actual real value from an energy and a waste and an extraction perspective, or lack of value, let's say, and how can we think of those minerals as our fellows along this journey? And thoughts on decolonization. How do we decolonize technology, again, through the lens of how technology has operated more historically? How can we think through the techniques and the techne of plants? Like, how can we learn from them? And again, what are the indigenous kind of protocols that again have endured and that are intergenerational that we can learn from, that emerging technologies also can be infused with, but also that we should never lose sight of as tools and techniques for humanity's survival and for its thriving. And I just wanted to show a couple of screens like this one, which is called The Automated Bodies and the Somatics of Weaving, and the way that we used graphically sort of sought to use both the body text going across horizontally and the notes that are falling below in a vertical pattern to form this kind of warp and weft of the weave of a cloth. Ways, again, that although these books are text only, which is something that I really love and I insist upon, that there are also ways to work with text that kind of enliven the contents. sometimes specified by the contributors and sometimes coming forth from the designers as a proposal. And again here, the index, just see where your eyes alight on this and what that may indicate about how your interests thread through the book. The last thing I didn't really have in the slides, which you'll see in the book itself, is that in this book too, not only is there a navigation along the edge of the book to show the contents and where the different contributions start, but there's also this system of what I call these threads of slow inquiry that go along the edge and that form this kind of barcode pattern on each book, again implying sort of visually implying a kind of a reference to technology, but most of all providing information in and of itself that allows the reader to navigate the book in a slightly different way than is traditional or would be expected. There's so much more I could say about this, but I've only been given 10 minutes and I may be at that point now already. So I just want to encourage you and invite you to pick this up and allow picking up this book and beginning to explore this book to be an opportunity to reflect on your own relationship with technology, how the work that you do can, and the life that you lead can contribute to alternative or divergent technological futures. And we welcome you to follow us on social media at Slow Research Lab, to join our mailing list, to reach out with any thoughts and certainly praise, but also critique of the book. We always welcome that. Just trying to get back to say thank you again, and wishing you all well and a lovely rest of the evening. Thank you.